Hello, this is Ielts Cambridge 17. I have written my own essay and I'd like to share that with you and to tell you what makes this piece of essay look outstanding. It's important for people to take risks both in their professional lives and their personal lives. Do you think the advantages of taking risks outweigh the disadvantages? So first thing first, this is an advantage-disadvantage essay. What are the key words? Well, as you can see, take risks. In what areas? This is very, very important. Professional lives and personal lives. So these two keywords, I'm not going to forget them. Okay. Well, the topic is risk-taking and the task is an advantage-disadvantage essay, so I need to think about what I am going to do. What are the advantages and what are the disadvantages of taking risks, both in business and in personal life? I start with disadvantages. This is where I am thinking of developing ideas before I start writing down my entire essay. As I have already told you in my previous videos, you are expected to put in at least 10 minutes about what you are going to write. And this stage is called planning. So I started to think about what are the disadvantages of taking risks. Well, in business, I see many people regret taking risk in business. Can you give me an example? Yes, I see people running up mounting debts, huge debts. So what is the result? They often say if they were less of a risk taker, if they did not take this risk, that risk, if they had not taken that risk back in time, they'd probably be living happier lifestyles. So I'm talking to myself and I think, okay, so I know why it is that some people, or why I think there are advantages to taking risk in business. Now, how about in life, in private life? I thought of that extreme risks, especially risks taken to extreme, well, they are often associated with problems. Have you guys noticed when we take risks, sometimes problems are very likely to occur? Not always though, but sometimes it happens. Can you think of an example? I did. My passion into mountain climbing. I was once quite interested into mountain climbing, and you know, mountain climbing is an extreme sport. It's a little bit dangerous, it's a little bit risky. So what was the result? I was in the hospital, I was put in the hospital for very long. So as you can see, I have thought about the disadvantages of taking risk, both in business and in life. And now, on the other hand, I need to think of advantages related to taking risk. I think there are more. Let's see if they really are. Well, risks in business would often mean creativity and innovation. I mean, when you take risk, when you do something risky, it brings with it creativity and innovation. I mean, if you do not take risk, you cannot succeed, as you can see. I'm thinking to myself. For example, I can think of a very successful entrepreneur. He would not have been a very successful entrepreneur if he or she had not taken risk. Who is that? Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey is a very successful one and a very famous one, so I can give a pretty good example. She's quite successful in the TV and radio industry, and she herself admits that she takes risk in life. Good. How about in private life? I thought to myself, in private life, I also think of it as some personal development. Why? Because I have noticed people who step out of their comfort zone often change their lives for the better. They learn something that they could not have learned otherwise, that they couldn't have otherwise learned, or they wouldn't have learned if they had not taken that risk. So as you can see, that's pretty much ready. Now, gradually, I can start writing. I know what I am going to talk about, and I know what my position is. Advantages seem to be more, while I admit that there are disadvantages as well. Now you can see my essay, especially I have tried to use different colors to indicate if this essay of mine is a well-written one, especially in terms of task achievement. Well, an introductory paragraph, as you already probably know, we need to start off with a background statement, the one which is neutral. No opinion should be expressed. You need to just introduce the topic, what you're going to be talking about. So what am I going to be talking about? I'm going to be talking about risk. In what areas? Private life and business life. So instead of professional lives, I use business lives. Instead of, for instance, personal lives, I use private lives, right? And I have written a complex sentence in terms of grammar. I said, despite being well aware of the risks involved, most, if not all, enjoy venturing on activities in their business lives as well as their private lives. Well, this is a fact. So it is true that many enjoy doing something entailing risk. That's what I have said. And now I need to make my position clear. I need to say if the advantages are greater than the disadvantages or the other way around. And as you can see, the color yellow, the one I usually do, it's my own personal coding. I usually use yellow to represent the topic sentence of the first paragraph and blue for the second paragraph. So first paragraph, I'm going to talk about the disadvantages of taking risks. In other words, the merits to avoiding risks, the same as demerits or disadvantages of taking risks. How about the benefits? Am I going to be talking about benefits as well? Sure. I have to do that, and I'm going to tell the examiner which one is greater. And it seems like the enormous benefits are greater. As I say, the minimum merits to avoiding risk in life do fail to justify its enormous benefits. Have I indicated, have I shown my position? Yes. Have I shown it strongly? Yes. I say it, as you can see, do fail. Okay? And I use the word the minimal benefits to avoiding risks. I mean, there are disadvantages to taking risks, but they are minimal. So I have also expressed my position using the right words. How about the benefits? Are they really great? Yes, I have used the word enormous. Now look at the first paragraph. It's in yellow. It shows the topic sentence of the first paragraph, which is about the disadvantages to taking risk. I've written just one single sentence as a topic sentence. Admittedly, I use the word admittedly because I want to tell the examiner that this is not my personal opinion, or maybe this is, I have to admit that there are drawbacks, but I'm going later to say, but the advantages are greater. That's why I use the word admittedly. So I accept that the drawbacks to embarking on matters entailing risk cannot be merely ignored in certain cases. Again, I use the word certain cases because it doesn't always happen. So as you can see, as I work my way through the entire essay, I try to make sure to express my position, not just in the introductory paragraph, not just by saying I believe the advantages are greater. Rather, I use each and every word quite carefully. I use the word minimal merits to avoiding risk. I use the word admittedly, and now I just say in certain cases. Okay, I'm going to, as you remember, why? Because I said people regret. So it's not uncommon to hear about some people who bitterly regret taking the plunge. Take the plunge is an idiom, which means to take the risk, into matters carrying an element of risk. It is an idiomatic expression, and we are often advised against using one, but it seems like now it fits in pretty well. And then I use examples. So I use purple to show that my subtopic, which is bitterly regret, is well supported. So yellow shows topic sentence. The ones in green show subtopics, my opinion, why I think there are drawbacks. What are the drawbacks? Well, people regret. Why do people regret? I said there are examples. They regret. There are many examples. What happens? People run up huge debts in their business. Why? Because they're too adventurous. They take risk, all right? So what's the result? Maybe if they were less of a risk taker, they might be living a happier and more peaceful lifestyle. So this shows that sometimes it's bad. In certain cases, people If they could turn the clock back, they wouldn't probably have, for instance, taken risk or whatever. All right, remember that I need to talk about this issue from two different perspectives, in business and in private life. And now I say the same situation can be extended to people's private life. So I'm going to move on to private life. I said when our risk-taking qualities are taken to extremes, many problems are bound to occur. So why is it that sometimes it's bad to take risks? Because problems are bound or certain to occur. Can you give an example? I have. My passion in mountain climbing, for example, put me to the hospital for an extended period of time. So as you can see, although I believe the advantages are greater, I have also talked a little bit about how disadvantages should and can be taken into consideration. All right? Now, the next paragraph, you probably expect a big paragraph in terms of support. Why? Because I'm going to prove that the advantages are greater. So you probably expect me to use stronger words to express my position, using the right words to say, hey, taking advantages is a great thing. Sorry, taking risk is a great thing. So I start off, without taking a risk, there is rarely a reward. You remember the blue color? It shows the second topic sentence of the second paragraph, and this is my opinion. When it comes to business, remember again, I'm going to be talking about this issue from two different perspectives. One, the business, and the second one is about the private life. So the first one is, I said risk-taking inspires and promotes creativity and innovation, providing sometimes the most valuable lessons an otherwise unsuccessful entrepreneur, for example, can learn. Wow, that's pretty good. That sounds impressive. So why do I believe taking a risk is important? Because it promotes creativity and innovation. It's an important lesson. If I did not have it, if I went without it, I would not be successful and otherwise unsuccessful. For example, an entrepreneur. So I have also included an example. Take Oprah Winfrey as a living example. And then I use conditional sentence to support it more. If it were not, as she admits herself, or as she herself admits, for her risk-taking qualities, she wouldn't have ever broken into the TV and the radio journalism industry. And remember guys, break into means to become very successful. So I have well supported it. Well, later I also use the word similarly to talk about a different perspective. What is it? Personal lives. I said, I think the ability to take risk, of course, calculated ones, is in fact a fundamental human feature. So why do we think it's important to take risk? What are the benefits to taking risk? It's fundamental. It's a fundamental human feature. It's essential to our development as a species. So I explain more. Why is it a fundamental human feature? Because it's essential to our development as an individual, as a species. And then I explain more. People who dare to step out of their comfort zone are often reported to have the opportunity to change in their lives for the better. So this is another advantage to our risk-taking behavior. We often learn things that we may not otherwise. So as you can see, I have supported it well using purple to show that the ideas I have developed, the first one of which is creativity and innovation, and the second one is it's a fundamental human feature. They both have been well supported. And finally, conclusion, I remind the examiner of the things I have explained already, and once again I remind examiner my own position. What is my position? If it is the advantages or if it is the disadvantages which outweigh. Obviously, in this case, my essay, the advantages are greater. So I say I believe the relative demerits to risk-taking behavior are canceled out by its more outstanding merits. It simply means the merits are greater than the demerits. Now, I'd like you to take a look at my essay once again, but this time I would like you just to see the words that I would like to draw your attention to. Topic-specific words. In the first paragraph, I use the word risk itself, and then I use the word venture on, to do something risky. I use the collocation avoid risk. the second paragraph, I have managed to throw in the word embark on something. We usually embark on something a little bit risky and dangerous. And I use the word matters which entails risk. So it shows the examiner that I know the right collocation, that something can carry risk, something can entail risk. I mean, sometimes there are risks involved, so I'm trying to use a wider range of collocations. I use the word, the idiom take the plunge, I earlier explained, or carry an element of risk. I use the word too adventurous. They are not synonymous, but as I go further along the essay, the further away from the main idea I am, well, the more comfortable I feel with words which may not necessarily exactly fit in with the exact word, which is the risk. So I use the word adventurous. I have used the word a risk taker a couple of times. And then I use the word risk-taking qualities, taken to extreme. Again, I use the word take a risk, risk-taking qualities. Again, you see the word take risk. Of course, calculated risk. Again, another collocation. And finally, I have used the word step out of their comfort zone, the meaning of which you probably know. And risk-taking behavior is pretty much the same as I have used. So if you take a long, hard look, you see my essay is filled up with topic-specific words. Words which go around the topic of taking risk. They may not necessarily take on the same meaning, but probably more or less in the same area. Now, I'd like you to take a look at my essay from a different point of view, cohesion and coherence. So first, we took a look at how my essay looked in terms of task achievement. Did I tell what I should have? And then we learned the words. They were in yellow. And now they are in red, cohesion and coherence. As you can see, I use the cohesive device despite, as well as admittedly, matters which carry, reduced relative clauses, relative pronoun like who. I mean, that would also help the grammar, right? I make complex sentences. You can see the word for example. I use an adverbial clause of when, or conditional sentences if. I use, let's say, a connector like however, like otherwise, when, an adverbial clause of time. Providing, which is innovation which provides a reduced relative pronoun. Again, conditional sentences, connectors, indeed. Again, you can see how the two sentences are joined together using the word indeed as a connector, or a relative pronoun like who, a sentence starter like in conclusion, to conclude the whole idea, and the rest. All right. Now it's time to look at the red one. What does it show? As you can see, most sentences of mine are in red. What does it have to do with grammar? If you are aiming for an IELTS band of 7 or above, you need to make sure most sentences of yours, most, not all necessarily, most sentences of yours are supposed to be in complex, right? Complex doesn't mean difficult. They need to be joined together using probably a connector, a relative pronoun, or an adverbial clause. For instance, here I use the word despite. Or here, for instance, you can see the relative pronoun who. Examples of those who are burdened, reduced relative pronoun. And now another complex sentence, and I have used the conditional sentence, maybe if they were, and the rest. So you can see most sentences of mine are in red, indicating that most sentences are complex. I hope you can make most out of this essay of mine. Have a great time. Bye for now.